Saturday afternoon, just about 1:15, the 27th. I think I got it wrong this morning. I think I might have said 26, but it doesn't really matter. Hold on, guys. Clean off my glasses. Bit of a mess. Um, that's better. Watching my cat come strolling in. So yeah, I think I got the date wrong. Not that it matters. Here's what I'm thinking about, guys. It's not going to be a book review. I did a book review yesterday, another edition of Books and Burpees as put forward by Simon Trasgrader. I'm always afraid I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. He had a great idea a while back, maybe 2 months ago, of doing a book review. Not so much a book review as just simply sharing what we're reading now. We're getting ready to read and explaining why we like it, why we didn't like it. Just bringing it to light and sharing it with others. And it definitely caught on with me. Absolutely love doing it, as I always have a book open, several books open. And our friend Robotics, Rob Butler, wrote a book. And about a month ago, he announced it, and I bought a copy. It took me a little while to start, not because I wasn't eager to start, but I added it to my list of books. So I had a couple others that, one or two that I had already started, and one that I was looking forward to get to. So I got through them, and I started his book, and I breezed right through it. It's a wonderful book. I left the review in my newest edition of Books and Burpees. I hope you guys get a chance to pick it up. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Celtic Legends. Search for the White Bear Talisman. The 185. Good Saturday, y'all. Hey, thank you for coming. I always appreciate when somebody stops by to say hi, especially someone new. And I always appreciate it when I can easily pronounce their name, because some YouTube handles, some social media handles, maybe it's because I'm old. I think when you get older, you cease to be able to pronounce things like that. And maybe I've reached that point in my life. So, anyway, I did do the book review, Rob Butler's book, Robotics. Also, let me give a shout out to his channel that he's old school fitness. He does the bull worker. Anyone who's come of age in the 70s knows about the bull worker. If you haven't used one, you probably saw the commercials on TV. It's an isometric workout, and he does isometric work. He also does burpees. He does pull-ups. He does lots of body weight stuff. Hindu squats, Hindu push-ups, the crushers, all kinds of stuff. It's a very interesting channel, as well as his innovative approach to fitness. So I'm not going to do a book review today, but I am going to talk about a book, at least for a little bit. This is a book I've had for about 20 years, and it is the Five Tibetans. And it is a little guidebook, a handbook of the 5 Tibetan rites, which is a simple yoga programmed sequence. And I've practiced it for about 20 years. Every so often it falls off not my radar, because I'm always aware of it, but it'll fall out of my practice schedule as other aspects of yoga gain traction. For me, sun salutation has always been the basis of my yoga practice, and I weave things around that. With my back issue, I'm always so hesitant to call it an injury, but if it's not an injury, it's certainly close to being one. It felt like it was getting better, and this past week several steps back. So I'm looking for ways. Again, I got to take some things out, um, see how it goes. But I'm adding the Five Tibetans back in, which might be a mistake. The thing is, it's a fairly quick sequence. I'm only going to do it in the morning. So I'll still have my regular yoga practice in the afternoon. And it does involve some back bends. It does involve some dynamic motion, dynamic movements. You got a spinning. You got the downward dog back to upward dog. You have bridge and tabletop, not the regular bridge, but you do have bridging, a gentle back bend, as well as make sure I have everything. I mentioned the spinning, right? So, oh, and leg lifts. That's the second one. You start with the spinning. It's a very energetic approach to yoga. It's Tibetan yoga, and they do things less of a static hold as you find in most traditional yoga, and they do it for repetitions. And what I mean by energetic isn't that you're expanding a lot of energy, although you do. What I mean is you open your energetic centers. It's designed to open the energy channels of the body, which is why it's also called the Five Tibetan Rites of Rejuvenation. This was sort of rediscovered at the turn of last century, early 1900s, by a Western explorer, spent some time in Tibet, and he came back with these exercises. Now, sometimes the origin is debated. Some say that it's not Tibetan, that maybe it's from Nepal, maybe it's from India. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me, at least. What matters is because you start out with 3 repetitions of each, you work your way slowly up to 21, is that it'll be a very easy approach. I did it this morning. I can't say my back is any worse. I don't know as yet if it's any better. But we're going to experiment. We're going to see what happens. I'm happy to have it back into the mix. We'll see. I took it out because I was doing so, as I said, I love doing sun salutation in the morning. It's a perfect way to start the day. It's also a big portion of my, or it used to be until my back was hurting, a big portion of my afternoon session. But it has been reduced to just my afternoon session and only 1 round. I used to do 8, sometimes more, as well as all the other postures. So I thought, you know what, this might be a good morning practice for me, starting out nice and easy, and we'll see. The 185 says, interesting stuff, bolstering immunity as well. Got to add that to my book list. It's a really good book. It's actually based upon the original book, which was called the Five Tibetan Rites of Rejuvenation, and Christopher Kilham. He wrote this, I think, in 1994, and he added some stuff in, specifically breathing, as the original edition doesn't concern breathing in any way, and he believes, Christopher Kilham, and I'm in his camp, because pranayama, breathwork, is such a huge part of every aspect of yoga, that it shouldn't have been left out in the original edition, and maybe it was purposely so, as a lot of times during that era, people didn't feel that you should reveal everything at once, that you needed to dive in, and only then were you given these sort of hidden secrets. But in this day and age, I think you need it all. I don't think any aspect of a good yoga program that anything should be left out. Now, for those who like body weight stuff, who for whatever reason feel they don't have the patience for a more traditional hatha yoga routine, maybe they don't like the slower work, the holding of the posture. Um, this is great for them because again, it's repetitions. It's not done quick, but it's not done slow either. It's steady movement, um, and it does work every energetic section of the body, specifically through the spine, which is why I thought I need to add it back in because it might be healing, not just physically, but on that energetic level that I need. And I've always loved it. And as I said, I've practiced it for 20 years. I used to do it after my ultra races. So after 50K, after 50 miler, after 100 miler, 24-hour race, it was a great way of keeping the delayed onset muscle soreness thumbs to a minimum, as it would just open things up considerably, especially after running for that long. As well, we normally had a long drive afterwards, and this was a great way of getting car ready, loosening up the muscles, and being able to sit for a longer period of time after being in motion for that long. So again, I highly recommend the book, diving into it. I did a video of this sometime last summer demonstrating. There's lots of YouTube demos on there. Mocha McCarty is here. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Mocha McCarty is on a treadmill right now at a 12% incline, walking 3 miles an hour. I'm showing off my yogic skills of psychic seeing. She let me know if I'm right or wrong. So yeah, you can find great YouTube tutorials for the Five Tibetans. And sometimes, I've mentioned this quite often, that a lot of times something that will come into your life that is less than pleasant. For me right now, it's an issue with my back, which is a big thing because I spent my entire life being active, mobile, being able to physically do whatever I decided to do. So to lose even a portion of that, even a little bit of that, strikes a blow, sinks me into a little bit of a depression. Especially at the age of 58, you start to wonder, is this the beginning of this little inkling of what it feels like to be 68, 78, whatever? You know, you start losing that little bit. I'm not necessarily saying that's the direction that I'm going. However, the mind does have a tendency to take you to those things. But at the same time, it gives you that opportunity to be creative, innovative, to look at what you're doing now and realize that even though you might have been doing it forever, even though it had benefits for such a long time, that it might not be working right now. And in fact, it might be hindering the direction that you wish to be going. And that's the way it was for some of my yoga practice. I absolutely loved holding some of these postures, and I could do some of the difficult ones for a length of time, but started having some negative physical effects, especially with all the other stuff that I was doing, and the fact that even though I've been doing this forever, I still have a tendency to overdo things. So it wasn't enough that I was doing 1 yoga practice a day. I had to start doing 2 yoga practices a day. I had to start doing 3 yoga practices a day. And it felt really good until it didn't. And of course, I didn't hurt my back doing yoga. Although I think yoga was leading me to the point where doing something stupid injured my back. So the lesson is, keep everything in check and don't do stupid things. I'm not good at either one of those. I'm working on it. And again, at 58, man, I'd like to say that I'm better at it than when I was 48, but I don't know. The amazing thing is, I'm better at it than I was when I was 28. Life's funny that way. When I was 28, when I was 18, I was a mess. I was a mess because I was about to say because I was fearless. The thing is, probably the opposite. I had a lot of fear, but I dove right in um, to show that, hey, I may be full of some fear towards something, but I'm just stupid enough to do it anyway. Um, so a certain amount of wisdom has come my way through trial and error, lots of trials, lots of tribulations as well, which is a word you don't hear too often any longer, tribulations. So anyway, sort of led myself away from the point that I was going to make, as I often do, that it also gives you little things that might seem like a step back or a mishap or whatever also lead to opportunity. And I think it's somewhat of a trope to say that, the Chinese word for misfortune is also the word for opportunity. I don't actually know if that's true or not. Most of those type of things are probably based in some type of truth, but maybe not 100%. I could look it up, but I don't honestly care that much. What I do know is it's actually true that, but you might have to search for it, that within the um, misfortune of hurting my back, it had to, um, let's see, the 185 says, say that, I agree with that message. Um, which one in particular? The avoiding stupid stuff or doing stupid stuff anyway? Um, I think we all have, that's an aspect of all our lives at one time or another. For some of us, much longer than it should be. Um, so yeah, originally hurting my back and trying to push through it and push through it and push through it, and it just wasn't working. So I redid my yoga routine, and I took a lot of stuff out, and I still taking things out, adding things in, but it led me towards, with more time, to explore yoga nidra, which was an important yet long ignored aspect of my yoga philosophy, my yoga practice. Um, it is the fifth limb of yoga, pratyahara, which is the withdrawing of the senses, which I sort of overlook because I consider my meditation practice um, to lead me in that direction naturally. As you meditate, you close your eyes, you withdraw the senses, you slightly shift the emphasis to repeating the mantra, thinking the mantra, um, and the senses are withdrawn automatically. However, with Yoga Nidra, you are taking the mindful approach of doing it, and you're sinking into that magical state between wakefulness and deep sleep. We've all been there. We've all caught ourselves falling asleep, and we're aware, and it's such a magical and mysterious experience of being within those two worlds at once. So that's become the big portion of my afternoon or late morning yoga practice. I do a more gentle approach to my asanas, and then I dive into Yoga Nidra, and it makes me kick myself a little bit that I've put this off for so long. And we're talking about, um, 40 some years, more than that. I bought my first yoga book. I might have been 11 years old. It was a teach yourself yoga. And I practiced, I taught myself yoga. And then for, years and years, I would practice for several weeks at a time and then put it aside. If you're a teenager, but it became more important to me in my 20s and even more so in my 30s. And it was meditation and the path of yoga, particularly after reading Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi that led me to a life of sobriety. I don't know, had I not completely dedicated myself to yoga meditation, that I would have um, come through what I did, who I was, how I behaved. Um, so you would think I would have embraced everything. But again, you know, things come to you when you are ready to devote yourself to the practice. And that's the way it was with Yoga Nidra. Now, again, my back was feeling better. Earlier this week, it started bothering me again. So I'm tweaking things and looking for ways of adding to my rehabilitation. One of which was the thought of, hey, it's been about a year since you've practiced the Five Tibetans. Let's add that in. Had I not had the issue with the back, I might have been beating a dead, I'm not going to say a dead horse. It's not proper vegan language. I might have been beating a dead rug. And not be experimenting and not be experiencing different modalities of healing. So there's always an opportunity. You have to look, and you have to be willing to put some stuff aside, which isn't easy, especially in my case, and especially in anyone's case, if they absolutely love doing the stuff they do. An example, Sukhasana, which is the easy pose, traditional cross-legged pose for meditation and just sitting, as well as Swiskasana, which is the auspicious pose. Two asanas that I had set aside decades ago for more comfort and ease of using a meditation bench, which I still love using a meditation bench. But for whatever reason, about a year or so ago, I felt called to sit, to not use the bench, but to reestablish a connection to the ground, to a cushion, to sit in that cross-legged pose, which opens up the hips, straightens the spine, and enhances the energy centers, the chakras along the spine. I don't know why I felt that urge, but I did. And I sit that way every morning and every afternoon. And it actually does help my back quite a bit. It is my very first asana of the morning. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, take care of bathroom needs, and my very first posture, minutes after waking up, I am in Sukhasana. I'm in the cross-legged pose, sitting. My practice starts with my eyes waking. 9 times out of 10, when my eyes open, I am able to remember a simple thank you, to be grateful. As Meister Eckhart, the German mystic, said, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, it'll be enough. I read that somewhere in the early 1980s, and it has stayed with me. There are some mornings when it's not my first thought. There are some mornings when my first thought is, crap, it's 3 o'clock. But most of the time, 9 times out of 10, I wake up with that easy prayer of gratefulness right on the tip of my mind. And then I'm into my first yoga pose of the morning, Sukhasana. I sit and I meditate. My next step after that, which used to be sun salutation, will now be the 5 Tibetan rites. Hopefully. We'll see. I have a backup plan. I am also a longtime practitioner of Qigong, and I have a particular Qigong routine that I've done for maybe 20 years now. And again, much like the Tibetan rites, um, it was an on again, off again practice, months at a time, sometimes a year for a time. And then my interest will shift towards another aspect of yoga, and I head in that direction. Um, it's a very gentle approach, a great morning routine. It's a great way of waking up the joints. So if this does not um, sit well with my back, I'll switch things around. It's important to have that flexibility, the flexibility of mind, the flexibility of habits. I am not the best example of the flexibility of habits. Most of the habits that I have are good habits, but I am well established in routines, for better or for worse. For me, mostly because my life has been so haphazard for such a long time, at least a long time ago, um, that structured routine, the structured approach, serves me quite well. It also serves my, I almost said goals. Let's throw the word goals out. Even aspirations aren't the right word. My, just the life that I live, the life that makes me happy, the things that I do that are meaningful for me, and that I want my life to have meaning. It doesn't have to have meaning to anyone else, but it has to have meaning and value to me. And to do that, I need to do things a certain way. Unfortunately, as it has not always served me well in terms of relationships and other things. But soul wise, it has served me well. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to be it. I'm coming up on half an hour. The 185. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing in the conversation. And I'm always happy when Milka makes an appearance. And we have someone new who popped in to say hi. And their name is in script. I cannot pronounce it, but I will say hi and appreciate you being here. I'm about to say goodbye, but I'll hang on for a second if you have a question or anything. So I hope that maybe this, if anyone gets a chance to watch this playback, that they might be inspired to give the Five Tibetans a try as well. If you look at my channel, I'm sure you'll find the demonstration. Definitely worthwhile. And it doesn't mean you have to give up any other aspects. If you're feeling good, you don't have to give up any other aspects of your practice. This actually will blend in well with sun salutation. It will blend in well with some of the more hatha yoga approach, more the longer holds. So don't be afraid to make any practice your own. That's the important thing. Learn the traditional route. Stay traditional, but also be able to be inventive, be able to take those practices and make them work for you while at the same time holding on to the traditions themselves. Not just for the sake of tradition, not because it's been handed down through a course of time, but because they work. They're a tradition, specifically yoga, which some will say is a 5,000-year-old tradition. Others, mostly yogic seers and sages and rishis, will say that it is older than that. It's older than 10,000 years. It's timeless. That yoga is rediscovered through every era. Um, that it came with the creation of the universe itself. Um, I tend to agree with that, especially when you think of the holistic approach, the philosophy of yoga, which is bigger than just the physical attributes that we're talking about here. That yoga literally means union, and it's union with the divine, and we can actually trace that back to the Big Bang itself. That from a solid singularity of energy with a sudden urge to expand, create a time and space as needed, but everything stayed, even though it spread out in a materialistic fashion, everything stayed immaterial and joined in nature. One thing. It's always been yoga. So, all right, guys, this time I'm really going to say goodbye. And again, thanks for tuning in. Very much appreciated. And I very much appreciate the new subscribers that have shown up. Thanks, guys. Take care.